Well, I'm here with Dr. John Delony. Dude, welcome to the
Thanks,
show.
man. I'm really grateful to be hanging out.
It's kind of remarkable. I told you I was doing some research on your YouTube, and you get calls from all over the place, all over the world, but the top calls seem to be always about sex, affairs, relationships. Why is that, man? Why are people calling into you when they're struggling with this kind of stuff?
I honestly think that there's no one to go to. It's this strange. Churches have quit talking about it. People fought the schools and said you're not allowed to talk about it, but they didn't backfill that with any sort of insider information or context. And moms and dads sure aren't talking to their kids about it. And so it's been outsourced to like social media, and it's been outsourced towards, instead of asking like your parents or your friends, hey, what's fill in the whatever sex act, they just Google it and then they go down a rabbit hole. And I think they wake up 10 or 15 years later and their brains are mush and their relationships are a mess and they're lonely and they don't know what to do next. And so I have to believe they just don't have a model or a context or anywhere to go and actually get some truthful answers.
Yeah, it definitely looks that way. I feel the same way even with the work we're doing where, yeah, churches aren't talking about it. It's hard to get in anywhere. I was just telling you, like, being on a show like Mind Pump recently was a huge honor. And I think maybe a sign that things are shifting a little bit because for a long time, the doors have been shut in so many different areas. You talk about anxiety, depression, affairs, porn addiction, a myriad of mental illnesses that are really prevalent. Is there one in particular that you say this is the kryptonite of, the people that are alive on planet Earth today in 2024? Which one do you think is the biggest?
Let me reverse engineer that answer. So I don't think en masse the human body is falling apart. I think we're actually working exactly as we were designed. We've just created a world that we weren't designed to live in. And in fact, this is secondhand, so I haven't read the actual study, but I just was hearing the other day that they handed a tribe of indigenous people the smartphones, and now the tribe elders are saying all of our young men are addicted to pornography. Of course they are. Yeah, and here's the deal: it's not their fault. Like, that's how their brains are designed to get this to get sexual interaction to continue the species. And it's also designed to do it in a relational context. When you take the relational context out, and people get anxious, people get depressed, people get addicted to these, what I would call substitute connections, like opiates, like first person shooter games, like social media things, like pornography. That's just a brain working perfectly, dropped in the wrong context, right? And so I think underneath all of that, the two big pathologies are certainty and loneliness. And when you don't have humility and you have a group on one side of a political spectrum who's saying, this is the way this is, period. And then you have another group on the other side saying the complete opposite, this is the way this is. Then your body's going to get anxious because it knows that's not true. The other side of it is you're so lonely, and pornography makes you feel a little bit less lonely. Getting that text from a coworker when your marriage is, dude, when you got 2 kids under the age of 4, of course your marriage is messy. Of course it is. It doesn't mean your marriage is broken. It means it's just messy. And your coworker texts you and she thinks your jokes are hilarious, or he thinks you look nice in that thing the other night. It feels good. It doesn't mean something's wrong with you. But we've just dropped ourselves. We've given ourselves these tools and we don't have the skills to navigate them in the 21st century.
Yeah. What do you think the antidote is? Like, do we abolish technology? Obviously, that's maybe not quite going to happen. But do you think maybe we do need to actually mandate some better controls with tech, or how do you think moving forward Because I agree, like the social media companies, all the big comms, they know what they're doing. They're tapping into those dopamine circuits. Yeah, exactly. We're not going to beat it, so to speak. What do you think the answer is?
It's a fascinating question, and I think you just go backwards. When my relationships are whole, when I'm hanging out with people, and when I'm really engaged in work, and I have a mantra that's come up recently, and it's just a personal mantra, which is, hey, just do what you said you were going to do today. Like I'll go to bed and then I'll be like, tomorrow I'm going to work out. I'm going to do this workout. I'm going to double it. And then I'm going to be on time. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to hang out with my kids. And then I wake up the next morning. I don't do the workout at all. And that starts a cascade of compensatory behaviors. My body has to start duct taping together a plan to cover up the shame and the failure because I didn't even do what I said I was going to do. I'm late to work. I'm anxious. I'm whatever. So when I do what I say I'm going to do, I don't even reach for my phone anymore. I'm talking to real people. My wife and I are having connection, right? We're talking, we're laughing. Me and my kids are sitting with each other. I'm talking with friends on the phone or family members on the way home. I get to my house and I actually am involved in the things that make my house go round, which men often opt out of. I don't spend my evenings letting other grown men play sports for me so that I can feel like I'm a part of something, right? I go outside and play with my kids, or I go help my neighbor with his farm. So it's when I do the things that I know I need to do to be well, it begins to really marginalize these addictions, these, if you will, these technologies that we are using to Xanax over, to Band-Aid over the mess we have in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah. In some of the calls that I was listening to that you've taken, the loneliness thing is really prevalent. It's very obvious. And there's lots of data behind that and all of that. Why do you think it's so hard? I think men historically have had it more built in. Like you think about agricultural times where like you actually just use an example, right? You're helping your buddy on the farm because I think you're in rural Tennessee, right? Where that maybe is a little bit more built in. But is it just urbanization, or what is it that has allowed men to be, I guess, a lot more disconnected, isolated, and much harder to form friendships and meaningful same-sex relationships?
This is a gross generalization, but I think it holds. That women form relationships kneecap to kneecap, and men form relationships shoulder to shoulder. And so the old barn raisins, we don't have them anymore. We just hire somebody, or we don't even have a barn, and we don't do hard things together. They're going to benefit you and benefit me, which in turn benefit all of us. We just go to our cubicle every day. So I'm in my car. We even built special roads on our highways that's like, hey, if you'll just get another person to ride with you to work, we'll let you get there 45 minutes faster. And most people are like, nah, I'll just go by myself, right? And so we have this pseudo relationships. Millions of people in America, their bodies, their nervous system knows Joe Rogan better than they know their next door neighbor, because we just put our headphones in and we consume. People listen to this interaction you and I are having, and their bodies are like, I know those guys. I'm good on the relational front. And then you go to your cubicle and you put your headphones on and you do your job. And then you go home and you let other people fight wars for you. You let other people play sports for you. You let other people coach your kids. And so we have just unplugged from our lives. And Huberman's talked pretty eloquently about this. Your body has to have something to push against neurochemically so that it can grow on the back end. The way I'll say it is, when you go to the gym, you have to put weight on the bar or you will never get stronger. If you pull all the weight off the bar, you're never going to get stronger. And so you go to the gym, you got to load it up, and we have to do that with our lives. And if we don't do that with our lives and we don't do that with other people, your entire social network internally just atrophies. It just goes away. And then your body sounds every alarm it has, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's who knows what, and alcohol or opiates or pornography, it makes those things go away.
Yeah, there's the old adage, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection.
And that holds a little bit, but yeah. I mean, I think generally speaking, I think there's a lot of truth there.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about tech boundaries with your kids, and we can dive into that. But I actually want to hear about you personally. What do you do personally? Because I have to imagine enough people have your phone number that it could be pretty busy and pretty distracting. What are you doing to manage that in today's
I'll tell you two stories. One, when I left higher ed, I worked in universities for 20 years. When I left, I was a chief student affairs officer at $1 billion university. I had no social media, none, zero, no Facebook, no Twitter, no nothing. So I say that to say you can get to the highest levels of your particular field without being connected all the time. In fact, I got there about 10 or 15 years younger than most people. And I think it's because I could focus on my job and the people I was in charge of caring for. I wasn't distracted all the time. So then I leave and I join a media company. And so now part of my job is on social media. And it was about, so I've had about 4, maybe 3 years. I don't remember, not long. And I was about a year in. I'll never forget this, dude. I was sitting in my closet. The door to my closet was shut. My closet's in my bathroom. The bathroom door was shut, and my bedroom door was shut. The kids were running around out in the living room, and I was just hiding and just scrolling. And I remember looking up, and I just started dying laughing. I was like, "Oh, you guys are good. Y'all got me. Like, you got me. Like, I don't want to be a part of that." And so I just went in here. I went behind the door. I could have been using heroin, doing the same thing. I was just numbing out.
Hey guys, let's pause the content just for a minute. I got something super exciting to show you. Follow me. I'm gonna give you scenario A and scenario B, and I want you to tell me, which person do you think has a better chance of quitting porn? Scenario A, it's Joe. And Joe is quitting porn on his own. Scenario 2, we got Jim. And Jim is in a community. Now, if you know your Bible, you'll know that Proverbs says, "He who isolates himself seeks his own desires." And what that means is, when we're not in community and we're trying to pursue freedom or healing or integrity, our odds are stacked against us. I know this because I tried to quit porn on my own for 15 years. And it wasn't until I got into a community that I actually started to get breakthrough. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because I just built a community for men like you who are serious about the call of God in their lives, their relationships, and becoming everything that God made them to be. If you're sick and tired of struggling with pornography, check out this community. The link is in the description. And with this, you don't just get a community, you get my proven formula, the deep clean method for quitting pornography, and you get coaching directly from me to ensure that all the odds are stacked in your favor to walk in the freedom that Christ has afforded you. If you want to find out more, click the link below.
And so that was an alarm, a wake-up call for me. Hey, Delony, you can know all the neuroscience, you can know all the partridge in a pear tree, you can have sat with all these tech guys, fine. They're better than you. You can't win. And so I'll show you right here. In my personal life, I have social media on one phone. That's the only reason this phone exists. And then I've got my personal phone over here, and I keep them separate. The best when I'm healthy, my social media phone stays either in the car, at the office, or at the very least in my bag. And I don't take it out unless I'm going to make a post, which means I'm deciding to work at 8 p.m. or I'm deciding to work at 6:45 a.m. or whatever. I'm not great about it, and I can usually tell I need to reconnect with my wife. I need to go hang out with my friends because I'll start picking it up at 7 a.m. or I've been eating crappy or had a bad night of sleep. When it comes to I'm just going to be as honest as I can. So, like I said, I worked in higher ed for 20 years. Thousands of students have my cell number, and I've kept the same number forever. And a buddy of mine is a country music star, and I called him once, and he had changed his number. And Goofball didn't let me know his new number. And so when I ran into him again, I was like, "Dude, you changed your number?" He's like, "Oh, man, I'm so sorry." And he gave me his new number. Well, then maybe a year ago, I called him and I said, "Hey, when was the moment when you knew it was time to change your number?" Because people call from all over the place, not to mention all the old people from your past. It's all the new people. And he said 2 things that were really important. Number 1, you can change it at any time. You're not bound by this box. This doesn't own you. You control it. But then he said, or this is so great. He's a hilarious guy. Or you could just be a grown-up and not feel like you have to respond to every time, every incoming text message. Like they are knocking on your front door. You don't have a moral obligation to answer the door. And if you do answer it, you got to be present. So wait until you're ready to respond and just respond then. And I started laughing, but that moment freed me. So I have a whole bunch of unread texts, and I'm grateful when people reach out. I don't have a time to spend answering, "Hey, what book should I read? Hey, what do you think of?" I don't have time to do all that. I don't have time to, "Hey, watch this clip." I don't have time to do all that. I do need the time to be a good dad and to be a present husband and to spend some time reading the next journal article. So, And then occasionally I'll be sitting in an airport and I'll go answer 45 texts. Some of them are a month old. And I've stopped apologizing. I don't owe you an apology. I love you. I'll get back to you when I can. And 99.9% of the people in my life get that, and they're super awesome and they're grateful. And the occasional person who's a goofball about it, that's just good data for me next time. But I get to own it, and I just don't lose sleep over it anymore. I've got too much. I'm working too hard to stay in my present moment here.
Yeah. So what do you do now? And I imagine you're not still 3 doors behind in a closet when things are getting out of control. How do you cope? Because lots of pressure. You work for Ramsey Solutions, and Dave's pretty upfront. Like they are an
Yeah.
intense environment, right? You guys are working hard, and I know you have a kid
Yeah.
or a couple kids rather. You're married.
So,
Yeah. How are you coping
well,
with stress?
the biggest stress I have in my job is there's just the competing. There's so many deadlines all the time, right? So that's tough. That's tough. And my job is carrying people's pain, right? And so there are days that it just adds up, and you get to the end of a month, and it's just like, dude, I can't handle another call about somebody's marriage falling apart or somebody's trying to die by suicide. I'm at capacity, and that's up to me to be a responsible adult to know I got to recharge, right? But I'll also say this place runs really, really hard. Like the company where I work, Ramsey Solutions, the media company, it runs real hard. And when I first started here, the currency at my old job in the higher ed world, in the science world, I was also a grad school professor. So in those nerd worlds, the currency was first in, last out. Right. So you get there at 7, you don't leave till 7 or 8. And there's always another article to read, another book to read, another opinion to read. And so I was here, I'd been here about 3 or 4 months, and Dave was doing a really late night media hit. And late night, it was 7 o'clock. I'm such an old man. But I was in there all by myself, just reading some mental health articles. And he walks in to our little office suite and he said, "What are you doing here?" Everyone was gone. And I said, "Oh, I'm just catching up on some of these new articles." And he said, "Go home." And I started laughing. I was like, I will. And he said, he got kind of close and he said, "I'm telling you, get up and go home." And then he said this: "If you're no good there," and he pointed out the door, "you'll be no good here." And then he said, "You will not use the name Ramsey as an excuse to not be a good husband and father. Go home." And here's what I had to do, man. I hadn't been home before 7 o'clock in 15 years. And that meant I had to learn how to be a dad between the hours of 5 and 7:30, because my identity had been, look how hard I work, look how much money I'm going to bring home to the family. And now it was shifting to, I'm going to sit here and play some sort of wolf dragon soccer game with my 5-year-old daughter. And I don't even know what we're doing. I don't know how the rules keep changing. And I just want to take the ball and punt it into the woods. And then my son's like, "Hey, Dad, can I have a snack? Can I have a snack? I got to learn how to do that." Because I've avoided it. I had gone around it, and it's been transformative. It has been absolutely transformative. And last night, seeing my 8-year-old daughter on her bicycle after she'd already wrecked twice, and I tell her, like, "Hey, the only way is to get back on." And she looks up at me, and we're not going very fast, but in her mind, we're going 1,000 miles an hour. And she looked at me and said, "I've never gone this far." Right? Like, man, I'm so glad I was there for that moment. That was better than any like house rehab, reel I could have looked up on Instagram, like scrolling or what. It was so amazing to be in that moment when she realized, look how far away I am from the house. This is awesome. And it was awesome. So I'm going to make that trade every time, and it's going to be super boring, and it's going to be super frustrating, and it's going to be worth it every single time.
Man, that's really cool. We work pretty hard with our team because we're dealing with pretty serious situations, people with addictions and marriages on the line and all that kind of stuff. So we work hard to teach people how to offload. And it's one thing to keep work at work, like physically. It's another thing to do it mentally and emotionally. And I'm curious for you, what have you done on more the mental side to clear your head? Like when you do reach that point where it's like, man, I can't take another call, like I'm emotionally spent. Is it just being at home that helps you recharge, or are there things you do
Yeah,
personally?
I think everybody has to know the things that they need. Some people need to go for a walk. Some people need to go for a long run. Some people need to go lift weights. Some people need to go just have chips and queso with some buddies. I will say 2 things. One, this is my gang, so I'm going to speak pretty openly and a little bit critically, a lot critically. Often mental health people, we don't practice what we preach. and we get really caught up ruminating, and we have some sort of elevated ideal of ourselves that if we just keep thinking and running over scenarios over and over, we'll be able to solve this person, this client, this patient, this coaching, this person that we're walking alongside, we'll be able to solve their problems for them. And I think that's arrogant, and I think it's incorrect. I think the greatest thing we can do is, if we have some particular knowledge gaps, write them down and go solve that knowledge gap. If we are really struggling because this particular old man that we're sitting with, or this particular young person who's struggling with addiction, reminds us of ourselves or our own situation, that's our work to go do. But the best gift I can give my clients, my patients, the people I show up to see, is to leave their situation in this room as and to go be whole, so that I can show up totally full. And so I always would ask, when I was teaching grad school, when I was teaching counselors in training, I would always ask them, like, what are you trying to solve at home? Why are you letting this person that you just met with today, or these 7 people, sit at your dinner table and interrupt you and your kids' like talking time, or your sexy time with your spouse? Why are you letting this guy in the room? That's weird, right? And when you start thinking of it that way, you have to start saying, okay, I have to have the strength to set this down. And secondary traumatic stress is a very real thing, but I think we walk around carrying it as though it's like, yeah, it's a part of our identity. Like, look how tired I am. Look how heavy this is. Look how scary this situation is. And all we're doing is making it very hard for us to show up whole for those people the next time.